good evening, good afternoon. I'm not sure exactly what time it is where in the world you are, but for me, looking outside my window here, it's hammering down in sunny England. So I do apologize if you hear a little bit of background noise from my new mic here. I'm still working it out, but winter time in England, always good fun. I've got clear skies, but somehow it's raining. What can I do about it? But today, I have a few things to share with you behind my screen here on my iPad. I will turn it around for you. I have a bunch of webinar angles here, which I want you to copy, steal from me. I will not sue you. Take them and reuse them as clean cut as you'd like to. But I'm going to go into a few of them in particular and tell you exactly why some of the tactics that I'm talking about that I've tried and done and seen work so well. So before we get into that real quick, hi, nice to meet you. I'm Ollie. I'm from VanillaSoft and I'm our demand gen team lead. That means I get to do cool stuff like this, for example, talking to you guys about how we do what we do, planning lots of content, planning lots of video content like webinars, like a new podcast. You might be excited to hear about that in a minute. But all those kinds of things and a lot of our ads and how do we promote the things that we do and how do we make it super interesting? How do we make it very attention, retention heavy? That's the type of thing I care about a lot. So I will turn around my iPad and I will show you very quickly. Now, if you're ready to take a screenshot, stand by. I'll give you a countdown. 3, 2, 1. Here are my 10 content angles. Now, I'm aware this potentially is the wrong way for you. There's not too much I can do about that. So I will turn that around and read back to you. So my top is the 1v1 battle. Now, picture the American Idol final. That could be a good fun concept for you to copy. One I'm going to bring into further detail in a minute is the 3 perspectives, the 3 points of view. That's a really good one that I like to do a lot. The competitor battle. A lot of your heart rates will have gone like this for just hearing that, but trust me, it's worth a go. The ridiculous, I may have to come back to that one at a later date, but a remark-worthy a concept that's completely out there that not very many people have done before or seen. So that could be something. The feel-good, the warm fuzzy, the customer story, the customer wins, those types of things for a certain type of goal and KPI you're shooting for, pretty good. The big shot, which is one that we're going to go into today, is a very different one. It's very, you may not do it all the time. You may have to have some budget. You may have to have some relationships which help you get there, but very good fun to do. The hot trend, which you kind of have to be striking while the iron's hot a little bit with that. You can't be, 7 months late to ChatGPT. You kind of got to be there when it starts, that type of thing. So I said hot trend, the 10x bigger. That one I'm definitely going to have to do on another show. And the surprise, and this happened, the surprising outcome that you can tell the story of. You can say, we tried to do A, B, and C experiment or practice or method, and the results we'll share in the webinar. So you have to come, otherwise I'm not going to tell you. So I said that I will go through 3 in detail. I will do that. So the 3 points of view, I'll show you my notes here. Pretty basic. So 15-minute segments if you've got three people. So let's do some simple math. 3 by 15 is 45. So we've got some extra time there, some padding. If most people do an hour-long webinar. Now, I don't know about you, but I kind of lose my attention span after a little while, especially if it's the same one voice, like just me here today, or if it's the same 3 or 4 just in a medley, in a big puddle, I like to call it. A lot of panel webinars, they just, here's some people, throw them together, and at some point someone pipes up, then the next one, then the other person speaks again. It's just all over the place, and it's not particularly attention retaining. You just kind of get used to the plethora of noise going on, the various tones of voices, and you tone out. A lot of people don't watch their screen like hopefully you're doing right now. They just kind of have it on another tab. It's playing through their speakers, maybe through their headphones. That's it. So they're not really paying much attention. You're passive at this point. But what I like to do with this 3 perspectives, 3 points of view webinar is you can fight that. And therefore, that's obviously a better thing for you and what you do with that lead afterwards if they've paid more attention. If you say, okay, welcome to my show. Now, obviously not exactly like this, but you get paraphrasing. Welcome to the show. Now, I've got 3 experts that I'm going to bring on, and in no particular order, I'd like to bring up my first one, who is name number 1. And we're going to take on this whole topic that we've got here today, big topic, let's call it topic A. But they have a particularly interesting take on topic A. And they have some unique experience with a subset topic. about that we'll probably will get quite deep into. We'll probably go down a few rabbit holes here. So I'm going to bring them on alone, just them, to talk about that for, let's say, 15 minutes, 10, 15 minutes. Now, you might want to do a little preamble before that. Maybe you need to say, hi, welcome to the show. Let me know where you're dialing in from in the chat. Maybe you need to say that, like I always get, hi, will there be a recording? There will be a recording. I have to say that every damn time. It's always kind of makes me laugh when I have to say it, because I do get it every time. And most people do know, but there's always one email was, hi, can I get that recording? So sometimes you have to do as what I call housekeeping things beforehand. But that's okay. You can make time for that. So that's why I say the 3 by 15 gives you 45 minutes. You've got time for maybe questions at the end, maybe some calling out, some content you want to send in your follow-up. Maybe you can allow for a bit of extra time if you feel like there was particularly good rabbit holes and kind of meat and juice to the topics that you wanted to go through. So you do that. You say welcome, and then it's go time. So you've got guest number 1, and the others are kind of in the green room, as I like to say. They're kind of backstage a little bit, and they kind of wait for their turn. Think of it like think of a name here, Ollie. Come on. A Saturday night talk show is the kind of thing that you're thinking of. You've got the first person comes out to talk to the host, and they normally talk about what's going on in their life and so on. And then just before the next person comes out, before normally the ad break. So what new album have you got to promote, or what new movie is it, or something like that? We'll be right back after the break, and guest 2 comes out, and so on and so forth. So that's a nice one to do if you want to mix up the sort of voices that you're going to hear over and over for your whole webinar. I often find that when we do that here at VanillaSoft, we never really see very many in the chat leave. No, I'm not going to say 100%. It's nearly impossible to do that, but we've seen probably 90% retention, which I would challenge a lot of companies to come close to that. I just think that it's the format, and it's nothing particularly about me as a host. It's nothing particularly about the guests themselves, though as good as they have been. I think it's about the format. It's the attention span. That's the main thing you're fighting, because ultimately, what kind of demand gen person wants to buy or to generate a load of leads who didn't really pay any attention, and then don't then pay any attention to the follow-up that they get from your company, your reps? Doesn't really work. So what you want is, yeah, I paid a lot of attention. I've built some positive brand sort of equity and goodwill in my head because that was flipping great what you guys did. That's the thing that you're shooting for. The one thing that I like about this a lot, as I read my notes here, as you might recall, I had 3 green dots at the bottom, my best things about it. You get a lot deeper analysis into the topics. So for instance, if we're doing let's do a webinar right now, hypothetically, about video in marketing. Probably a lot of you are doing that. I'm doing a video right now. What 3 modes of video could I talk about? So I could do podcasting, I could do webinars, and I could do social content. So those are all subsets of it, and I could have an expert per, and it's kind of all linked, but it's separate enough that they can have their very unique perspectives, and that kind of not ruin the rest of the show. They don't have to disagree because they aren't actually talking together. But I'm going to get a deep dive into, so how long should that social content piece be? And should there be subtitling and those types of things? Because you wouldn't do that on a webinar. So it's different enough that you can go much deeper down those rabbit holes and have a good time with that. So I spent probably a little bit too long there on the 3 points of view, but you can tell I do it all the time. I love this one, and I think it's a really, really good one that I'd like you to copy. So as I swipe forward, the big shot. This is good fun, okay? So I'm going to show you very quickly my notes. A few good things, a few that you have to keep in mind though. So I will say, the big shot, think of, this might be a little bit exaggerative, but you've got Michelle Obama on a webinar. She's going to speak for you. First of all, congratulations, well done. Please let me know how you did that. But, it could be an industry person who's a really well-known leader. I don't just mean your typical influencers within the sort of industry and the market that you have. I mean, big, levels above, that type of thing. And usually you have to pay for these people. Sometimes that's okay. Sometimes you might have a relationship. Sometimes you're a big vendor and you've kind of got platform for them. So that caveats the payment. Depends. But this might not be for everybody, I admit. So you're 100% playing on their profile, and that's fine. What does that mean though? You kind of need to squeeze the most out of that rather than just, here's a webinar, on you go. We never recycle that content ever again. Now, when you've got somebody with such high profile, such audience you can tap into. You've got to try and make the absolute most out of it. You've got to make it into as many things as you possibly can. Even go beyond what you think is probably right, because you could have 5 blogs about it over the course of a year. You're not overdoing it with that by any stretch. As long as not every single week you're saying, Mark Cuban said this on our webinar, and it's just like, oh my God, yeah, we get it. You had him on once, like 3 years ago. There's a little bit of a line there, but a lot of people underdo the repurposing. So what do I mean by that? You can have something like the 10 clips that you pulled out from the thing with Mark, or let's just pick on Mark for the sake of it for that example. The 10 clips, and that's 10 things for social media that you can reuse. Obviously, video clips you can put on various different channels, so that's also good. Put them into blogs. Google kind of likes when you use YouTube as well, so that's nice. You can put them on your YouTube channel, put it on the website. That hopefully increases your time on page on the blog, that type of thing. Or people love listicles. It can be the 7 clips from Mark Cuban that you need to know, right? That type of thing would be pretty interesting. And you've again got the clips in there, driving a lot more engagement. You're definitely playing on their name, as if to say, because if it was the 7 clips that Ollie said, you'd be like, who? Hopefully not quite as brutal as I just said it, but you know what I mean. If it's Mark versus me, you're obviously going to click and have more interest in Mark's 7 clips. So that's one thing. You've got to get their promo help though. That's a huge one. Too many times I've worked with people who have a lot more influence and sort of reach than I have. They haven't been as willing to get sort of behind the promo and help me out with it. Now I get it. They've got a lot more to promote than me because other people like me want them to help promote things. It happens. It's part of it. But you've got to be really scrupulous with that and you're dealing with them. Whether their team is involved, and that's just okay, sure, we're happy to put 1 post out in the 4 weeks leading up. If that's okay with you, that's okay. But you've got to work with their team who handles the posting. Just saying to them, like, I want you to put an email out. They'll go, okay, or no, and it will not happen either way. So you've got to get deep into the team and kind of work with them on that. So the expectation setting is really, really important. One thing you can do to try and spice this up a little bit, you've got a really big name. What more can you do about announcing it? Rather than just, here's a thing, we're doing a thing with this person, and then sort of repurposing it as you go. Why not say, let's do a live stream where we're going to announce this like huge thing, and you don't tell anybody what it's about. It's just a company announcement. People tune into those things. Oftentimes, now not to bait and switch, oftentimes they're mergers and acquisitions or funding and news that people kind of pay attention to and they care about. So to come in and say, listen, we're talking to Mark about this and here's the link. Hope that you'll be able to join us. And maybe if you'd like to submit a few questions beforehand, you can get yours answered when we do the thing for real. Then you've already got some kind of user-generated content. You have people a little bit thinking, oh, if I submit my question, I definitely want to come because if he answers it and I'm not there, wow, I'll be so annoyed about that. So you're already kind of building the hype. You're kind of using it again. As much as you can use their name and use the fact that you're doing this to your advantage is a great thing. So there we go. As I double check my notes, I've got a few things there. I mentioned the clips. I mentioned you've got to repurpose. I mentioned you've got to make as much hype about this as you possibly can and then reuse it much more than you think afterwards. So as I go to my final one, the competitor battle. Now, as I said, your heart rates have probably gone from here to up here, but I promise you this is actually not as bad as it sounds. So my notes are not quite as glamorous or sexy to show you this time. No colors this time, but of course, I will happily share with you the, well, I've even signed it down the bottom corner there. I'll happily send you the screen caps of all of these and the other ones if you'd like to. And of course, if you want to pick my brain and tell me, hey, how do I do this for me? Then let's talk about it and I'll help you out. But back to the competitor battle. So I've seen this a few times and it's not a huge software company against a huge software company saying who's better. It's more of services companies. This is a little bit better for, or it can be done with a methodology. So you don't have to be, it's me v you. It's kind of our perspective against your perspective. If you can make that a thing. So that's one way. So oftentimes what I've seen is they have another host. It's not me versus somebody and I am the host. It's kind of hard to play 2 roles in one show. It's a lot going on up here. I don't know about you guys, but if I'm having a real debate, the last thing I want is to be keeping an eye on the clock in the bottom corner of my laptop. And I'm also thinking of, we've been talking about this for like 9 minutes, so I want to move on in 2 or 3 minutes. So I kind of want to make a counterpoint to this, but he'll fire back. So you don't want to do that. You want somebody else to deal with all of that. Someone who can play that TV host neutral role and say, okay, guys, that's the end of that round. We're going to have to move on because that takes a big weight off your shoulders. Now, I just said round. You might have thought, he's just given one away. I did. So I like to break these things up into various topics. Now, think of the 3 perspectives type of show. We're going to have person 1 talk about topic A for 15 minutes or so, and B and C, and that's the bulk of the show. For this, I like to do something similar. I think it makes sense rather than just to meander through debate for half hour, an hour. That lacks flow. After a while, it can feel stale if you've kind of briefly hit on a couple of the points that you want, and then you've spent too long on some of them. That loses its kind of zest. You need it to remain alive to at least a fairly high degree. Now, it doesn't have to be fireworks and a boxing match, but you need it to have a little bit going on the whole time. You need some sort of renewed tension every so often, which is kind of a good way of explaining it. Renewed tension is, maybe I'll have to write that one down. So a couple rounds, maybe you can have 2 or 3 topics beforehand. You could say, look, we think that, for instance, for my company, if we were to do this, we think that cold calling is brilliant and very poorly executed. And the other company might say, it doesn't work so good, but we'll talk about that. And then the next round, they might say, well, sending a lot of emails is really working for us. And we would say, yeah, sending a lot of emails is kind of cannon fodder for us. It's okay, but it's not really cutting through. And then the next round might be, we do a bit of SMS marketing to people, but we don't believe at the moment it's in the best health, so we're not going to do it crazy. And they might say, no, we don't touch that at all. So that's just one sort of example. You can debate the pros and cons. You can have your stance, your point of view for each piece, and then you keep the debate going because there's different sort of moving elements of tension across the whole show there. And of course, your host keeps you to time on that, so you can't spend 25 minutes on the first one. So yes, the neutral host, super important. One thing that I've seen done very well, I won't name the names so that you go and look them up, but there was a particularly prevalent one a couple of years ago that I remember. Probably the first time I've actually seen this done, to be honest. There were a couple of sales trainers, and they obviously competed with each other. They had this very, at the time you wouldn't have known it, but everybody saw it, public debate, public back and forth on LinkedIn. They were saying, just writing their own posts and outing the other person kind of in reply to each other in a chain. It was probably 5 to 10 posts each. So it was quite a lot of stuff going on, quite a lot of PR, quite a lot of reach. A lot of people will have seen that, particularly just publicly posting on LinkedIn. Here's the thing I'm saying. You're saying it wrong. I'm saying it right. Here's the reasons why. Slandering each other's point of views, all of those things. They did it to a really, I'd say they took it to the nth degree. Like they really took it to the nth degree. I don't mean quite like that, but you can take an element of how they did that because it creates so much buzz, and so many people were saying, God, like, have you seen them two debating? Have you seen them talking? Like, who do you kind of agree with? And lots of people were talking about it on a private basis, on a one-to-one level, in teams, in peer groups and all those things. And you're saying, no, I agree with that one because like the way he said that, I totally resonated. No, that was nonsense what he said. A lot of people felt like that because of this preamble, the thing that they've been able to do before. You can't take it too far where you're going to kind of make it obvious that you're teeing up some sort of really cringy battle. It needs to be sort of reasonable, professional, respectful, and then you can say, look, obviously we've have different points of view, so we're going to talk about it some more. Would you like to watch? That's a fairly lo-fi way of saying, look, we don't agree. Here's the thing that we're going to do. You can come if you want to. You don't have to. The way that this was done before, they had it was basically a mock boxing match. They had an announcer. It was just, I don't want to speak bad of it, but it was not great. They made it very obvious what was going on after a while. It wasn't to begin with, but that was a sort of masterful promo that had a sour ending. People kind of felt swindled by the way that this was very clearly set up beforehand, and it didn't look like it that until the 9th hour or the 11th hour. So anyways, you can take from that. Now, obviously, you do need to have some sort of common ground to end on. That's the main thing. You can't just sort of keep swinging the whole time and keep disagreeing. you kind of need to say, to pick back on my example, we say cold calling's great. They say it's kind of all right, not too good. We can say, well, there's room for improvement, but it's still a good thing. That's a good place to end on topic 1. Topic 2 about the emails. We think it's okay. They say it's the best thing that they've ever got. We say, well, I think that if we're careful about it, we could increase the way that we perform with this, but we're not going to put all our eggs in one basket with this. And probably both sides can say, yeah, I guess so. And then on the other side, maybe both sides could agree that maybe doing SMS is a good idea, but it's not quite as secure as it used to be. And there are changes going on. So it's best to be careful. That's a fairly decent common ground to land on, where neither side saying, no, I'm right, no, you're wrong. And, everyone's kind of got a binary comment section point of view. So that is the competitor battle. And as I swipe across to check my notes, I'm out of them. So that was about 20 minutes. That's a long time for one person to talk without the 3 other perspectives. So I hope that you've been able to pay some attention, to be able to take some screen caps if my handwriting wasn't too awful and the wrong way for you. Like I said, if you would like me to send you the screen caps, obviously it will be in the right way round for you. And of course, I have the other 7 or so, I believe it is, types of content angles that you can take in, not just the webinars, but I think this plays pretty well for webinars. So I'm more than happy to send you that if you'd like. Just drop me a note, whether email, LinkedIn, or wherever you'd like. And I hope that you enjoyed the session. But first of all, just before I leave, I'd like to say thanks very much to the Signals team who've invited me back. It's always good to speak for you guys, and hopefully I can do this again for you soon. But with that, thank you very much, and I hope you enjoyed the show. Enjoy the rest of the conference, and see you soon.